Henry Kissinger, the former Secretary of State and National Security Advisor, spoke in front of the Senate Armed Services Committee, and he got a little surprise.
Arrest Henry Kissinger for war crimes! Arrest Henry
Did someone find out where the Capitol Hill police is?
Arrest Henry Kissinger for war crimes! Arrest Henry Kissinger for war crimes! Arrest Henry Kissinger for war crimes! Arrest Henry Kissinger for war crimes!
In the name of the people of Vietnam!
We don't want to hear from you anymore.
In the name of the people of Chile! In the name of the people of Vietnam! In the name of the people of East Timor!
You know,
In the name of the people of Cambodia! In the name of the people of Laos!
I'd like to say to my colleagues and to our distinguished witnesses this morning that I've been a member of this committee for many years, and I have never seen anything as disgraceful and outrageous and despicable as the last demonstration that just took place about, you know, you're going to have to shut up or I'm going to have you arrested. If we can't get the Capitol Hill police in here immediately, get out of here, you low-life scum.
It's quite sad that people applauded that. And to the idea that they're scumbags, like, okay, you're a little bit uncomfortable because a protest just happened. But what, they're scumbags for exercising their First Amendment rights? I mean, you would think that that's the heart of what America is. That's the heart of what it means to be an American, to stand up and have your voice heard and protest. But of course, it goes right over his head and that irony escapes him. And it's hilarious that John McCain calls anybody else a scumbag because how many countries does he want to invade? Mother Jones did a great story on this recently, a few months ago. What is it? Over a dozen countries he's called for outright invasions of? But they're scumbags because they said words. They made noises with their mouth to express disapproval. Didn't do violence. They made noises to say, hey, look, arrest this guy for war crimes because of what he did. But no. They're scumbags, and you're just a moral good person for wanting to invade over a dozen countries. I know, John, I know. So, here's the thing, man. Overall, what's my take on it? Well, I've always been somewhat torn on the issue of protests like this. And it goes back, same thing with like when Obama's heckled, right? Like part of me is always like, okay, they should be able to do it and it's really not a big deal because usually, let's face it, if it's a progressive heckler, they're making good points. And they're like, why haven't you done this, right? But then, of course, there's the other part of me that says, well, you have to let the other person speak too and let them respond. And, you know, you can't just have an entire time where it's supposed to be like a monologue or something, a speech, and it ends up becoming a debate where two people talk back and forth the entire time. That doesn't make much sense either. So I've always been kind of in the middle on this and waffling. It obviously depends on what the person is saying. If it's some rabid right-wing protester, I guess I am a hypocrite on the issue because then I'm like, okay, dipshit, shut the fuck up. You have no idea what you're talking about. You know what I mean? But when you look at something like this, okay, you can say it makes people uncomfortable, it's a little distasteful or whatever you want to say, but you cannot, this is the main point, you cannot disagree with the substance of what they're arguing. Now, there's one little point where you can disagree, and where I would disagree too, how they say arrest Henry Kissinger for war crimes, then they say Vietnam at one point. No, Henry Kissinger, he actually got a Nobel Peace Prize because he was a key player in getting us out of Vietnam. Now, maybe he did things before that I'm unaware of, and I'd have to see that, you know, maybe he wanted us to stay in there longer before he turned against it, and I'd have to look at all the information to evaluate that, but it's commonly understood that he was more against the Vietnam War. So on that point, they're wrong, but on every other point, they're 100% right. So they say arrest him for war crimes because of what he did in Chile and what America did in Chile and Laos and East Timor. And look, man, I think that's the biggest point, and it's the giant irony of the entire situation, is that you have John McCain calling them scumbags when Henry Kissinger, the guy they're protesting, albeit he's old and frail now, but him and the U.S. government at the time, they were involved in supporting a coup in the 1970s in Chile, overthrowing a democratically elected leader, putting in a dictator, Pinochet. Pinochet, of course, killed over 3,000 people, tortured about 30,000 people. But no, you're scumbags for talking about it and protesting it. He's not a scumbag for doing that and partaking in it. How about in Laos, the U.S. dropped literally millions of bombs? To this day, they explode if you step on them, and at least 20,000 people, including many, many children, have been killed after the bombings, never mind how many people died during the bombings. And by the way, Laos was basically tied in with the war in Vietnam. We kind of had like a covert war in Laos at the same time. See, the more you learn about history, the more you realize the American government post-World War II, we were the biggest criminal government. We were going around putting in whoever the fuck we wanted, bombing this place, attacking that place, doing secret interventions here and there. And this is a perfect example. So yeah, if you want to speak up and say there are war crimes done there, maybe Henry Kissinger should be brought up on them. Absolutely. For Chile, for Laos, absolutely. And probably the worst one is the East Timor genocide, which is never spoken about. I'm sure even you guys who listen to this show, who are way more educated than your average person on political issues, in East Timor, Indonesia went in there and they killed between 90,000 and 200,000 people. Indonesia at the time was led by American-backed Suharto, a dictator that we propped up. And by the way, we gave him the green light to go into East Timor, and we gave him American weapons. The genocide was committed with American weapons. But since he's our ally, we do not hear about that nearly as much as we should, or we don't even hear about that at all. It's not taught in the textbooks, even though we supported that regime. He slaughtered people in East Timor, an American-backed genocide. Nobody heard about it. Nobody talks about it. When they do talk about it, idiots like John McCain shout down people and say, you're the scumbags for talking about the genocide we backed. No, the person who fucking part and parcel of supporting it is sitting right here. Why isn't he the scumbag for doing the violence? We are talking. We are using our mouth. We are protesting. A First Amendment right. It's the most American thing you could do. But John McCain totally misses the point. Why? Because, oh, you broke tradition and I'm slightly uncomfortable in here. Fuck your tradition. Fuck your comfort level. Somebody needs to stand up and let the world know we acknowledge the crimes of our government and we are against them. So, Code Pink, when in the final summation here, I have to say I'm on their side because the substance of what they were saying is undeniable.